Hello and welcome to Froch on Fighting. My name is Carl Froch and I'm delighted to be joined by Johnny Nelson. Bumped into him at the port of Banús. This big yacht rolled up and I thought, I recognise this guy. It was mine. The skin was glistening. I thought, hang on a minute. And he stepped off the boat. He's got a six-pack now as well. Yeah. What have you been doing?
That's just how I roll, baby.
So anyway, he thought he'd come and visit me, so we thought we'd jump him on here and have a little chat about the big fight last night. So Moses Itauma took on Dillian Whyte last night. Moses Itauma is now 13-0. How old is he? He's only 20 years old. They're saying he's the next Mike Tyson. Different shape, size and dimensions, but the way he's knocking everybody over, the way in which he's winning, you can see the resemblance to Mike Tyson. Johnny, before we get into the main event, there was a little bit of drama on the Ringwalk. I think Dillian Whyte kept Moses Itauma waiting. Sometimes that's an old trick, isn't it? Just to get inside the mind of the opponent. What did you make of it?
It's an old school trick, and I suppose it was his last silent protest, because you remember Frank Warren turning up and completely blanking Dillian, disrespecting him. And I don't know if Frank holds a grudge because Dillian didn't help promote. I can't remember which fight.
Yeah, when he was fighting Tyson Fury, he didn't want to do the press conference or anything, did he?
I think it's a bit childish, I'm honest with you. I think it's childish of him. You've got to respect all the fighters. And so Frank walked in. What I saw, Frank blanked him. And I think, Dillian's thinking, all right, and everything all week he's been saying, you know what, nothing's in my favour here. So to me, it was a silent protest. I'm gonna screw you, Frank. I'm gonna come in at my time. I'm gonna make this young boy see if I can try every little trick in the book, make this boy wait and piss them all off. Because you know what, I'm gonna take my money and I'm gone. So with Dillian doing that, I understand why he did it, but there's a lot of factors connected to it. It's an old school trick, but he was giving that one to certain people that he thought, oh right, this might be the last chance I can get to give you the bird. So yeah. I hear that.
Your boy used to, didn't he? Nassim Hamed used to keep him waiting. He used to keep the TV waiting for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing is, even though the promoter might have known Naz was doing that added to the drama. Oh, absolutely. This was a more personal message from Dillian, and also a situation for him to say, right, I've got to try and get this in my favour. But he didn't care about the pressure from Frank. Yeah. He didn't care about the pressure from the promotion or the TV, because he's probably thinking, I have a good chance of getting turned over here, and this might be the last time you see me on this stage here. So there you go.
I don't think Ben Davison was happy about it. I don't think Moses Itauma would have been bothered at all in the slightest. Just kept warmed in here, kept going. But it just shows, doesn't it, the old dog Dillian just trying to get that last little bit and gathering his thoughts, maybe pissing them all off. But the fight itself didn't last very long. I mean, Moses Itauma got on him straight away, found his range of his jab, pummeled him, body and head, landed some nice shots, nice little uppercut. Actually caught him on the back of the head, but if your opponent's ducking low in front of you, I did it against Damon Haig, hit him with a right hand, and that knocks your equilibrium, and that does finish you. Not making an excuse for Dillian, but he did get caught high. But it was a great performance from Itauma, stuck it on him, got the job done, and you've actually since had a couple of words, haven't you, with Dillian Whyte since the fight?
Yeah, without a doubt, and obviously seeing that shot, you think, wow, you could try and claim, say foul, but the job was done. The job was always going to happen then. But speaking of Dillian, to me, it was just about concern for his health, seeing if he's all right. Looking at this stage in a fight's career, it's the hardest thing to admit. It's the hardest thing to accept. When some young kids come and done that to you, it's the hardest thing for any fighter to accept. So right now, this morning, he's got to try and find some kind of grounding. He's got to try and think, I've still got people around me, friends around me, and I just wanted to make sure he was all right, and make sure he was in good spirits or in sort of high spirits because of what's happened. And this is the new beginning of a different chapter in his life, and so it's a hard transition.
Absolutely, but he's accepted the fact that he got done by the better man. But he's just acknowledged that he did get clips on the back of the head.
And trust me, and this was a personal conversation. Yeah. So therefore, in that conversation, he wasn't saying, "Oh, it's because I got hit there." He touched on it, but he said, "You know, it is what it is."
It's boxing, didn't it?
The kid's good. Yeah, it's boxing. That's what it is. What it is. The kid's good. So don't anybody start giving him aggro for saying, "Oh, he's using it to blame it on the back of it," because he didn't. He said the kid is good. This did happen, and I saw this shot. I'm like, oh. That spun him.
That's hurt him.
Yeah, that spun him. When you get one, and it's not legal, but so we're the ones that are making an issue about, or bringing up the subject about being hit on the back of the head. But Dillian, far from it, he said, you know what, the kid did the job.
But then shots on the back of the head do hurt you, don't they?
Moses was doing an amazing job up to that point, beating him to the jab. Dillian threw out a jab. His jab, Dillian let his jab go first, and then Moses threw his jab, landed, backed up before Dillian's jab landed. So that tells you Dillian's snap is sharp, that youth, There was a massive difference in just that simple jab. And Moses varied it from head to body. Then when Dillian's ducking and trying to slide his shots, that shot on the back of the head, it spins the brain. You're done. You're drunk. And then that's when he's trying to ride the storm. And people will ignore it because the fashion, Moses did an amazing job, got the job done. But that shot right there was the beginning of everything. But initially, I could see I liked how Moses was smart. He was clever. He didn't use his brute force as a big guy. He used brain. He boxed. That southpaw style, jab to the head, jab to the body, vary the shots like he's on the punch bag, kept his distance, didn't get giddy and excited when he saw Dillian was in trouble. And that kind of calm and patience for a man at 20 years old, going into his biggest test at this stage. It doesn't matter what age Dillian was at. It was a case of how he dealt with the pressure and how he dealt with the pace, how he dealt with the situation. Do you remember when Frank Bruno staggered Mike Tyson? And oh my God, you get excited or you get drunk on the success. None of that from Moses. Moses was cool. And so that probably would have happened at some point because he showed initially in that first minute he just had it all going for him in the right way.
Yeah, you talked about the jab there, and he established his jab straight when you know yourself as an ex-professional world champion boxer, the Nelson machine. You know what it's like. When you establish your jab, you get your range and your distance. And he did that straight away. And once he got his confidence behind his jab, he then started putting hurtful big shots together, body and head. And for me, Dillian Whyte he's past his best anyway. He was ducking low, and that's why he got clipped on the back of the head. And he was trying to get a little bit in range to try and get something going. But Itauma just totally shut him out. Is that fair to say? It was a total shut-out performance.
Totally shut him out. And the jab, it sets you up. A jab can take you around the world.
And it was then combinations, body, head, and it was overwhelming, wasn't it, for Dillian Whyte? And to me, was it a case of Itauma was just too good? Or was it Dillian Whyte's past his best and finished? Or a bit of both?
Both. I think it was both. I think Dillian Whyte's style would never have been that style, what you saw from Moses. But Moses' style, his youth, his pace, his IQ was spot on. You couldn't at that stage, was spot on. Kept his distance, used his footwork, in, out, in, jab, boom. And then varied it up, body, head, dummy to the head with that southpaw style. So apart from having to deal with the southpaw, apart from using a perfect sharp jab that left after Dillian's left, apart from varying the shots from head to body, both hands, that's a lot to deal with from a young gun that's there. So you saw Dillian having to back off and trying to regroup himself. But Moses was sharp enough and smart enough to keep his distance but keep the pressure at the same time. Yeah. So in a way, giving him no way out. And I think how he executed it was spot on. It was bang on. And you know what? I think a lot of people probably thought Moses was going to do the job, but I don't think anybody thought Moses would do the job like that.
Well, White's only lost to AJ, Povetkin, Tyson Fury, and now Itauma. So he's been there, and he's at the fringe of world. He's not quite world class level, is he? Because when he steps up, he's got a win over Parker. Joseph Parker is now flying, and Parker was on the resurgence of coming up as when he beat him. I mean, it was close though, wasn't it? He nearly got stopped in the last round against Parker. So he's of that level. But for, like you've just said there, for Itauma to do that kind of job on him in the first round, even though White's past his best, it does show that Itauma potentially could be a big star that everybody's talking about.
So it's how do you let Itauma off the leash? Do they let him put off the leash and run wild like they did with Tyson at this stage? And he was just a wrecking ball. And if they do that, these guys that are in front of him, will they think, do I want any of that? Because this guy's got everything I haven't got. He's young. He's got everything going his way. Don't want any of that. Yeah, and personally, I would look ahead if I were the guys ahead of Moses instead of looking back at him thinking, I don't need any of that, regardless if I think I can beat him or not, because the risk-reward doesn't weigh out. And then you think, where does he go next? Do you put him in with something like...
Well, Usyk might be vacating. If Usyk vacates, whichever belt that will be, then something might open up. But when you look at who's sort of on the list of who he could fight, who would you say? I mean, on the same bill last night was Hrgović against... who was he fighting?
Hrgović was against David Adelaide.
David Adelaide, of course he was. And so that was a good fight, a close fight. Hrgović looked better, for me, than what he's looked previously. You wouldn't say that's too much of a step up, would you, for a time? That's a good fight for him.
But it's still going in the right direction for Moses. You know, instead of going back to getting a soft touch, now he's thinking, right, every fight's going to mean something.
What do you think, Hrgović, Itauma?
Hrgović, Itauma, I think it's a good fight. I think Itauma was a good test, but remember Daniel Dubois beat Hrgović, and Hrgović, You know, you look at him, he switches off at times through the fights, but then how will that improve Moses? So he could look at people like him, he could look at George Joyce, he could look at all those guys that are just on the fringe, just to say, right, now you're ready, off you go, see if you can get it in before you're 21 years old. And so Moses has got everything in his favour. Yet, then people are going to get all getting excited, put him in with Alexander Usyk. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that because Usyk's too smart.
Well, Turki Al-Sheikh himself has said, I want to see the Usyk fight against Moses Itauma. And he will do because he loves his boxing and he knows that's a really, really interesting, juicy fight. Yeah. But I agree with you. You're not going to chuck Itauma in there with Usyk. And look how good Usyk looked in his last fight.
Exactly. Why spoil potentially another rising heavyweight that can dominate the division? Why spoil it? You just think, you know what? Sometimes you've got to lose a battle to win a war. So I'd be a bit smart. And I'm not saying he gets turned over by Usyk because you don't know how good this kid is. What I'm saying is, I just won't do it. It's not a risk that because he's the future. Yeah. Usyk's at the stage where he's probably 1 or 2 fights ready to walk away. Moses is 20 years old, so he's the guy that will actually start running the future. So now everybody's been spoon-fed on Tyson and AJ. You're thinking, where's the next star going to come? We're looking at him. And you're going to look at, everybody needs a dance partner. Everybody needs that fighter to be in the mix with you to say, right, this kid's good. Now for this breed of fans, they can now get excited about the emergence of a new young talent coming through.
Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, they're not going to be interested at all in Moses Itauma, are they? It doesn't do anything for him, does it?
Yeah, talk is cheap. So no matter what they say, I'm telling you now, they'll be advised, you don't want any of that, son. You're on the wrong side of your career. You don't want any of that. You know, I saw a piece that Eddie did on after the show, and Eddie said about Dillian. You know, when Dillian signed for the fight against Moses, I knew he was cashing out because that's saying even Eddie's opponent's thinking that kid's too dangerous. So why would Eddie advise AJ to have some of that? You just wouldn't.
Well, he's cashing out of AJ fake Paul, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but there's more chances of him doing fake Paul than Itauma.
But if you can identify a cash out, I know what you're saying. So they won't want that fight. It's pointless. I mean, Tyson Fury's still retired. AJ's now is he going to rebuild and try and become a world champion? Who knows? Or is he just going to try and get some big bunts before he finishes? But we're here to talk about Moses Itauma, and he is a fantastic talent. Only 20 years old. Usyk, 38 years old at the end of his career. I would say Usyk would probably fancy it because he'd fancy any fight because he's so good. He looked great in his last fight, didn't he? In his fight against Daniel Dubois. Yeah. Even at 38, getting on for 39, he still looked like a fantastic athlete. He still looks sharp. He's bounced on his toes. He's fit. That is a tough fight, and a fight that Moses Itauma probably doesn't need. Do you think Usyk would look at that and think, I like the challenge, or do you think he'd say, no, actually stay away from that young gun?
This is business now. This is show business, and the business side of it is this. If it makes good money...
Does it make good money, Itauma, Usyk?
Well, does it? Well, what else is out there? Where else can Usyk generate the kind of money he deserves at this stage of his career? Why would he give this young gun an opportunity when he can make more money across the street? He doesn't need to prove anything because he's done that. So he'll look at what makes the best financial sense for him, regardless of what we want. And that's the smartest thing for him to do.
Yeah. Would you say Moses is now a star on the back of that win against Dillian Whyte? Is he now a star, or people now saying, well, hang on a minute, he's the real deal now? Yeah, or does he need another good win?
So there's been many, many talents out there, and it's not just being able to fight and be successful. You've got to have that crossover appeal, that personality. Now, Moses' personality is very level-headed. He's very down-to-earth. He just seems... He's all right. We don't actually know him yet. And so slowly but surely he's coming out of his shell. You think, oh, I like this kid. There's not an edge to him. There's not an arrogance about him. But things change with fighters, and you want to see how that affects the individual. You've seen AJ from this point to that point. You've seen Tyson Fury from this point to that point. So you want to see how the success, the adulation, the attention affects Moses' appetite to be in the gym, affects his relationship with the press and the public. Because when they start to intrude on your personal being, you're going to be a little pissed off. Yeah. So therefore, you've got to try and keep that same persona, that same respect, that same humbleness, and ignore all the crap that comes with fame.
Yeah, you can't rush Itauma. For me, if I'm managing Itauma, you're not chucking him straight in there with Usyk, putting in an old veteran who's got hundreds of amateur and undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight title fights underneath him, chucking him with a 20-year-old young gun, because that could be the finishing of him, couldn't it?
His Excellency is a fan.
Yeah.
He's a fan, so therefore he wants what fans want. But he's not a coach, so therefore coach will say, no, this is best for the fighter. He's not the fighter, so he wants, he's in a position to try and get the dream fights. So, and you can't blame that because he's doing what he does. The managers and the trainers have got to do what they do, protect the fight or let you fight off the leash. So,
but for us, then it's going to be a Hrgovic fight. It's a step up. Yeah. Have another look at him, see where he's going, and then. Yeah. Build on from that, and maybe if Usyk's still around in a year or so, because he might be, because he loves the sport, then he's addicted to training, he loves it. That might be a fight in 12 to 18 months. But for now, 20-year-old Moses Itauma with a performance like that, if he then steps in again and then steps up a little level against Hrgovic, because it would be a step up, demolishes him. It's going to be hard to match him up with anyone but a world champion. So we're going to see how the landscape changes and what opens up if a belt does become vacant.
How we can handle that responsibility. And so far, how he talks before, during, after, there was no badness between him and Dillian in the build to this fight. He was respectful. He said, you know what, I sent you a message when I was 14 years old to ask if I could spar with you. He was respectful and humble. I thought, I like that. And so it's just how he handles all this adulation. How he handles the business side around him. Because all of a sudden, all those people that are around him that are tapping him on the back, that circle's going to get bigger. Yeah. So whoever's looking over him, looking out for what's best for him, unfortunately, now the ninjas are going to come out. So you've got to be smart. It's not just about what he does in the ring. It's about the people that are distracting him, whispering in his ear, telling him he can do X, Y, Z on the outside of the ring.
So we can all get excited now for a potential British superstar in the heavyweight division, because he certainly looks the real deal, doesn't he? Would you say so? I don't think we can sing Moses Itauma's praises any more than what we have done. Great performance, amazing. Still a prospect. He's not a world champion yet, but it looks like he's got world championship titles written all over him. And I think sooner rather than later, I think it's coming. What about Dillian Whyte? Let's finish on Dillian Whyte, because he's been a great serviceman to the sport. He's been, I mentioned it, he's lost to Tyson Fury, he's lost to Anthony Joshua. He's had Povetkin. He's had a couple of good wins. He's been in there with Chisora. He's been in there with Parker. For me, it's definitely the end of the road for him. It's pointless asking you that, because you agree it is the end of the road for him now.
I do. Listen, I saw Derek Chisora, another fighter that's grown on me. I thought, Derek, you should have packed in years ago, because now I know it's about the money, but I'm on the other side. I'm thinking about your health after our sport's gone. But when you're an active fighter, you don't see that until years later. You think, God, I should have packed in a bit earlier. And
if Dillian Whyte is going to fight again, who does he fight? That's the problem.
He loves training, but he loves his life out in Portugal. He's made some decent dough. If he fights again, who does he fight? And again, he's another gatekeeper, because the guys like Derek doesn't want to fight somebody like Dillian. He wants to fight somewhere where he gets that one last big check payday. So whoever's going in against him, it's that test. Dillian looked in brilliant condition, but he just was up against a young gun that could fight. So where does he go from here? I hope he retires, but the choice is his. And I don't see a lot of fighters finishing like that. I didn't like seeing AJ finishing on his face. I didn't like seeing that with Dillian. Dillian's grown on me. I like the guy. He's a nice guy. He's proper down to earth. So he's got to understand there are bigger things outside of boxing in this life, and so he's got to understand what he wants.
So that's it for another episode of Froch on Fighting. It's just our take, our post-fight reaction. It's good to have Johnny in town, bowling around Port Banús, giving it the big one. Not giving it the big one, but that Lamborghini looked good. Why have you gone for yellow?
Big yellow, that Lamborghini. Come on, jump on the, I've got sofas and that.
So while I've got him in town, I'm going to get him on again. We've already done a little chat yesterday about AJ now, so look out for that one later in the week. And let us know what you think about what Dillian Whyte should do next. How good is Moses Itauma? It's always good to hear your feedback and have a look at what you think. But we'll catch up with you later this week. Enjoy yourselves and take care. And don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to the biggest and best channel.
Pina coladas, baby.
In the business. Pina coladas. I thought you was a tequila man. I'm a tequila man.
Yeah, those two.
Let's go.